magnificent morning, awesome afternoon, and wonderful evening. And I have the most amazing panel today. I hope I can keep up with these people. In any case, I am Carla with MindPlore with Carla and Friends. And today we are talking about mindset. What is a mindset? Everyone keeps on saying, get your mindset correct. Well, I began thinking, what is a mindset? And do I have a correct mindset? And sometimes I really don't know. I have no idea. So I'm going to turn it over to my mindset expert, who is Nevile Gaunt, and he's forever working with me on my mindset. And I am going to let him tell me and tell all of us what is the mindset. Nevile, take over.
Thanks, Carla. We've got a fantastic panel here today, and we're all going to be put on the spot, let me tell you. So I'm really looking forward to this. Mindset, my goodness, what a load of bunkum is written about a mindset. And hopefully today we will investigate what at least four mindsets are doing, how they do it, why they do it, how they feel about it, and all those wonderful things. So what I thought of, we'd start with a definition that is not easy to understand until you start to dissect it. So the definition I picked up is, what is a mindset? So your mindset is a set of beliefs that shape how you make sense of the world and yourself. It's more than that, but it starts with a belief. It influences how you think, how you feel, how you're driven, and how you behave in any given situation. It means that what you believe about yourself impacts your success or your failure. Now, I said that slow enough because there's some wonderful words in there that we could spend a day on unraveling each one of them. So beliefs, it's your belief structure. So I would then take it on another step. So our beliefs and our experiences form our attitude, and our attitude in action is our behavior. So very simply, if we're smiling and really smiling about something, then there's something good going on. You can't put on a fake smile, not a really happy smile. And equally, at the other end, if you're pretty down in the dumps and feeling pretty miserable, there's something going on inside you that is either an experience or a belief, but it's changing your attitude. So trying to unravel this word mindset, I'm going to pass it over to, I'm going to ask one of the guys to volunteer. That's most unusual for me. Normally I nominate somebody. So who's next?
I can jump in because while we were talking and we were being greeted with a sentient being known as Rehan, I decided to go to the other sentient being that I know, ChatGPT, and ask for its definition of phrases associated with a positive mindset. And just to add to what you were saying, Nevile, optimistic, belief that good things will happen in the future, confident, trust in one's abilities and decisions, motivated, having a strong desire to accomplish something, proactive, taking initiative and acting in advance to prevent opportunities or to seize opportunities, to prevent problems or seize opportunities, resilient, positive, growth-oriented, open-minded, gratitude, compassion, and so much more. And so, when I look to mindset, I don't need to look to Open GPT, but I thought I was just curious what another sentient being was thinking in terms of looking at our words and looking at our state of mind. And, to be positive, for me, a trigger is typically a sunrise, because it brings, when I witness and experience a sunrise and bring it in, for me, it's a reminder that a new day has started, and that The only one who remembers yesterday is me. The day doesn't know about a bad day or a good day that I had the day before. It's my mind space. So if I can clear my mind and let go and being open to receiving greatness and goodness and positivity, I could then reflect that. So learning, so for me, so during the day, it is the sunrise. At the end of the day, it's a sunset. And a sunset for me means that I can see the Milky Way soon. So when the Milky Way rises or when the stars are out and I can see the night sky, to me, that's another reminder to be grounded and to find myself and to, again, be unbounded, because I'm reminded that we're made of cosmic dust, and that when I look at myself and looking out into the sky and I'm able to witness biblical light, light that for millenniums people have been able to witness on this planet, perhaps not for much longer due to light pollution, but for now in some places around the world, you can look up into the night sky and see magic. That to me reminds me to find the ground, be centered. And when I'm centered and I'm not worried, and I learned to let go of worry a long time ago, and just be, I can be positive. So a positive mindset, the assumption is that there's an awareness of a mindset. There are people who don't have that awareness, and perhaps they are leaning negative because they don't know about positive. We also, and I'm not a doctor here, but I will tell you that sometimes people have chemical imbalances, and there are things which can alter someone's mind space, which is not necessarily driven by thought as much by the chemical, consciousness, right, is a chemical in our mind. The way that we are conscious, the way that we're able to be present, what distinguishes us from others is our ability to be in our flow, in our moment, to be conscious of a moment. And allegedly consciousness that we experience is different than anyone else. That if you look at other beings on this planet, our sense of consciousness is just different. And that in that consciousness, we can choose to have a positive mindset, I believe. I could be wrong. It could be that sometimes we don't. But if we have control of the mindset and we can use words that lean us toward taking positive actions for ourselves and for others, that's a wonderful place I like to be. I believe that we could accomplish so much more by being positive, by allowing ourselves to be unbounded. The thing I've noticed, however, is acceptance, that we have to allow ourselves to be open to receive, and whomever we're speaking with, they need to be open to receiving us. That if we're here speaking and they're not listening and they're not hearing, while it's nice to speak, it may be a waste of time. So I remain positive and optimistic that our words are heard and that we are received in the positive mind space that it's meant to be heard in. And I do believe with gratitude and trust and being present, we can collectively change the world in the most positive way, because in the end, it is my belief that light wins, that light beats darkness. And the more open we can be, and the more positive we can be, the more chance we have to have positive effects on others.
Can I ask you a question, Jeff?
Sure.
You said, and I agree, we need a positive way of thinking. However, we all go through moments where you want to say, I don't really want to be here, and I don't really want to deal with this or that. And our mind goes the other way. Now, at some point or another, we catch that and begin to turn our mind around. How do you do that so it doesn't stay on the negative long enough to kind of build that momentum and bring it back to the positive?
It's not easy. It's not easy. I don't want to, it is sometimes incredibly hard to be the only person positive. And times when I wake up in the morning feeling not positive, I don't want to get out of bed. Sometimes I'll go back to sleep. I'm known for taking multiple showers to wake up again and again and again to give myself a chance to, okay, now I'm in a good mood. Now I'm feeling good. Because if I'm grumpy into my morning, I affect many other people. And people who might be on the edge might go on the other direction because I'm grumpy. And I don't mean to be like that, but in the container that contains my soul, I cannot help certain things which are true to my being. And so I do believe in reboots, personal reboots, both from a figurative perspective as well as a physical perspective. I believe that we could reboot our day, our lives, our work, and our moments. And frankly, if something isn't working, as much as I would do control, for those old enough to remember what Control Alt Delete can do, if you're using a computer, I would do that to my day if I can. That is to say that I find that the time I'm in a shower is a refreshing moment where I get into idea state and I get into just a beautiful place to be. And I don't have any way to recreate that using tooling, but being in that shower for me is a restart. And so if I'm really feeling bad, Carla, I've spent hours in the shower on some days to refresh, to reboot, to reset. But if I'm in a meeting, if I'm away on location, and I'm feeling like that, I will lock myself away. I will look not to bring myself to others to have a negative effect on those people. And I'm not a good liar. I don't lie. I just don't really. And so if I'm not feeling great, I don't want how I feel to affect others. So I would stay away. I've had interactions when I was grumpy, and I've noticed it creates like it's a snowball effect in the wrong direction. So I've learned to, when I feel that way, to do things to fix myself, to open my mind and be reminded that we can be restarted, and that my hope is that we are remembered by not our worst day in our lives, but perhaps some of the better days, and that we always have a chance to make a difference. And the reality is that every moment starts a new moment. So I don't have to wait till tomorrow to have a good day tomorrow. I could have a good day starting right now.
Yeah.
I just have to let myself do so. And that's that fight between my mind and the reality. And so when I could remember that, I can have a good day almost any day. Now, it doesn't mean that bad things don't happen. And it doesn't mean that I don't need a way to rationalize how bad things happen when friends of mine get hurt, pass away. And I cannot control everyone's destiny. I'm not able to always control my own. I deal with grief. I have friends who deal with grief, and so it's not easy. I'm not saying every day is cheery, amazing, wow, amazing all the time. But when for the things I'm in control of, as opposed to things that I'm not control over, and I have let go of things I'm not control over, I will do my best to bring good into this world and to bring goodness to those who are around me. So, but I've delineated and let go of things I can't control. It's my father forcing me to understand that worrying is a waste of time. It's not that worrying doesn't get me sometimes. Sure, it still might. But when I could identify that as the cause and let go of it, I'm in a much better place.
Because I know for myself, today I'm on my third show within 5 hours, that there are times when I get really tired and I'm feeling, oh my gosh, can I go ahead? And I force myself to breathe and I go ahead and I do make it one way or another. But it's really sometimes difficult, even if you're talking to a very close friend and you're disagreeing, to stay positive. And it gets to me at times. I'm like, I want to be positive, but
it gets to everybody, Carla. I mean, we're human. I mean, it's part of our human psyche. But the interesting thing is, the psychologists, if you ever put them on a spot, will tell you there's only 3 things you can do. You can do something physical, you can do something social, or you can do something mental. So the physical, Jeff has just explained. He takes himself out of the game and he sorts himself out. And that's a physical thing to do. You could take a deep breath, which is what you've explained.
Yeah.
That's a physical thing to do. And sometimes that's all we need. You can take yourself off, make a cup of tea, take a comfort break. Again, that's a physical thing. A social thing is call a friend who's prepared to listen to you with the phone over here. Okay, that's a very social, and you've got to be a good friend, by the way, to do that, because you're just going to scream down the phone and just say, I'm going to get this off my chest. But do you know what? One of the most powerful things is mental, and we don't actually do it and use our imagination. Take yourself off to a happy place. You can just close your eyes and dream of somewhere. Jeff dreams of a beautiful sunrise before he opens his eyes and he sees it. And it might be pouring down with rain, but nonetheless, it hasn't lost its beauty. And at the end of the day, he's got the stars. He's got that cosmic balance, and that works for him. Interesting enough, the way he was explaining it, it was working for me. And I'm not that type of person, really. But there's really only three things you can do. You know, phone a friend, something social, do something physical. In other words, get off and take yourself off somewhere else, or use your imagination. Frankly, the most powerful one is imagination, but we're not taught how to use it.
Pastor Billy.
Yeah, wow. I've just been drinking all this in, like getting a drink of water from, as we say, from a fire hose. But I really want to hear what Rehan has to say. You know, I'm here today because Rehan and I met at the last National Prayer Breakfast in Washington, D.C. And Rehan, you remember that, obviously. It was you and your son, I believe. And it's great to see you here again today. And so Rehan, when he heard my story, and it was a very positive meeting, he encouraged me to be in touch with Carla. And here we are at MindPlore. So Rehan, thank you. Carla, thank you. And Neville and Jeff, thank you for your comments. I'm going to be brief. I always say brevity is next to godliness, right? And, you know, people, you know, our parents used to say cleanliness is next to godliness. I say brevity. So, yes. So I'm going to do the 3 B's. The letter B, I'm going to be brief, be blunt, and then be gone. How's that?
You're not allowed to go until this show is over.
Be brief, well, you know, when we're talking about positive mindset, and again, I come from a God perspective. I come from a Christian perspective. And when I think of positive mindset, where I go directly as a pastor is, how do I think of myself? And how do I think of others? And when I come in with the mindset, here's the key phrase, that myself and everyone else I meet is made in the image and likeness of God. And that, for those of you that are scholars, that comes from the book of the first book of the Tanakh of the Hebrew Bible in the book of Genesis. So how do I think of myself? Well, if I think of myself that I'm made in the image and likeness of God, and that I can be connected with God, again, Christian concept, Christian worldview through Jesus Messiah, then everything about my life is going to be positive, because there's a great verse in the Injil in the New Testament that says that all things work together for good to those who love God and to those who are called according to his purpose. So how do I think of myself? Well, if I believe that God is in control of everything, then I can chill. And so I tell people, I think Jeff and Neville and Rehan and Carla will appreciate this. I have an acronym. I love acronyms. And I always say that worrying is fun. F-U-N. Worrying is fun. It's foolish, it's unnecessary, and it's not for me. So you got that? So worrying is fun. It's foolish, it's unnecessary, and it's not for me. Worrying is corrosive. Worrying is negativity. So when I think of myself, hey, Pastor Billy created in the image and likeness of God. And when I think of others, Rehan, Carla, Neville, Jeff, and everybody else here on MindPlore today, that you are created in the image of God, and God has a special purpose for your life, everything is positive from there. So I see that Rehan has his hand up. So back to you, Rehan.
I don't know the theme here, so I need to raise up the hand or just go about and asking question. But you are the only one in the planet I know of that who can go about not eating for 40 days. That's mind over matter, and that's just what majority of the human beings I know of are unable to do. They are unable to actually deploy the mindset in the physical realm, and they, even though they might believe on a belief level that we are created in the image of God, we have God, we are very, very close to God, but at the same time, or we should just chill. Or Carla should chill more often, maybe. But the point is that how do we apply this mindset? And I don't know of anyone who has applied to that level of physical, change. I mean, the athletes and others and everybody else, they do the same. And I'm almost 50 now, and I think now I do it based on my understanding is that everything is basically habit. And in order to change whatever the attitude, whatever the positive mindset, whatever you want to change, you have to create micro habits around it. And eventually you will go to wherever you want to be. Like, for example, if I want to get into a 40-hour fast, I have to practice for the next 5 years in order to get there. Maybe start with, as you said before, like once a week, and then, more often. And you do it once a week. Also, you do it multiple times in a month. You do it multiple times in a year. And you are now have done it 40 days fast for a long time. And when I tell this to people, they can't even imagine or believe it, that you can do it. So my question to you is, or I want to understand your technique of actually applying, as Jeff was saying, we don't know what we don't even know. We are born in a certain place, we are born in a certain way, we are born with a certain belief. What is mindset, as Neville said, is I think it's just belief. Whatever we hear over and over and over and over, we start believing it. And until and unless somebody questions it and somebody asks a question, and then we go out and check up our own belief again, then why do we do a certain way? Why are you the way you are? And that's where my struggle has been that, why can't we change the mindset? I work on my life's goal is to help people change their mindset towards earning more money for themselves in my country, because I think we are poor for absolutely no reason except our mindset. How do I go about helping them do that if that is what it takes to change that? How do you change your mindset? How do you go out in the light of Bible, or in the light of God, in the light of your own wisdom? What are the small little actions that we need to take in order to change, or to shift our mind setting from one setting, whatever that setting is, to another setting, from off to on, from mild to cold, from cold to hot, whatever the setting is. I think it's based on whatever, in my language, we say, ghutti mein pad jana. As in, when we are growing up, whatever we hear up till the age of 2 or 3, this is what we become. We learn the language, we become the religious person or unreligious person, whatever our parents are educating, that's what we become. So it's set. And then some people say after the age of 7, it's impossible to change anything more than 30%. So I don't agree with that 100%, but for majority of the people, I think it's very hard to change because they can't change their culture, the place of living. And I think that impacts a lot. In the United States, you guys have very individualistic a lifestyle. I live in Pakistan. There is no such thing as individualistic lifestyle. You can't make a decision until 7 people are sitting in the room. There is no decision. So, and you have traveled the world and you have seen the same thing all around the world, wherever, many parts of the world, you can't, even if you want to change, you can't. You are like, sorry, you can't do it because it doesn't comply with the setting of the culture or of the home or the setting of the house. I don't know if I was able to convey my question, but I would love to hear your answer.
Can I ask a question to everybody?
Sure.
Okay. We're all born fundamentally the same, you know, 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes, 2 ears. Are we born with a positive mindset, in other words, a positive bias, or a negative bias? Answers on a postcard, send them to, I'm going to get this wrong, at london.com. No, seriously, just put your hands up immediately if you think we're born with a negative bias.
I think what your question is wrong. Bias is based on what you were fed. You know, if your parents were feeding you wrong stuff, it's wrong. If your parents were feeding you,
Rehan, I'm going to the point before you're born. So as you come from the mother's womb, are we born with a positive bias or a negative bias? It's been neuroscience has proven this in the last 10 years. So I'm not coming from a guesstimate.
My guesstimate is that we are born like an empty page. It can become whatever it's given. That's my take on it. Maybe you know something better.
Fine. Pastor Billy?
Yeah, you're probably not going to like this, but here we go, right? And it shows you my, speaking of bias and so forth. Yeah, we've from an epistemological vantage point, human beings are actually born with a penchant for evil. We are born, as the Hebrew Bible and King David talks about, that we are actually, and I'm going to use a 3-letter word, which is 1 letter short of a 4-letter word, and nobody likes 4-letter words, right? But we're born in sin. And so from my perspective, we need someone to save us from that sin. My context, that would be Jesus Messiah. I'm not about preaching here, but you asked a question. So we have to overcome that negativity. I don't know what neuroscience has said, Neville. You said it's been proven the last 10 years, but yeah, I think generally, I mean, why do 2-year-olds throw tantrums? You know, that's kind of my proof text, right? I mean, we have 11 grandchildren and we got a couple of 2-year-olds in there. Well, and I look and I say, where did that kid learn how to do that? I mean, did they learn it from television? No. Did they learn it from their parents aren't acting like that? But anyway, so we have a sin problem in the human race, and there's only one way to solve it. So that's my brief answer to you, Neville.
And here I thought that was known as the terrible twos. That, you know, the 2-year-olds are known for certain characteristics. That's one of them. Also, you know, the evil versus good is also perspective, you know, because if you were born into an evil-minded family and you happen to be on the good side of the light, you may be looked at as being a bad person in that family because you look to the light. So it's all about perspective as much as anything else, and we're assuming there's zero bias in the judgment of bias, as opposed to people who might be on the other side of the light. And so it's, you know, I'm not here to judge whether or not we're born to sin or not, because that's also judgmental. But I will say this, that it takes an effort to be positive. And if you think about the context of day-to-day life, it's what gets broadcast in our media usually is the darkness, not the light. People would rather hear stories for some reason about bad things than good things. Good news seems to be so unweighted, so that if you look at the information coming out in all social channels, there's less weight put to good news than to bad news. And that just seems to be the way of us. Intentional or not, that becomes then, you know, the law of the land, if you will, the unwritten understanding of how things should be. Not that we shouldn't change the status quo, but that is the status quo for as long as I remember. that it's easier to put out a negative thing. Gossip, right? A lot of most gossip is negative, not positive.
Yeah.
At least if you happen to be the person being gossiped about, or otherwise being attacked, or otherwise having things happen to you. We hopefully honor our achievements and our awards in a positive way, not necessarily to brag, but just to establish. And there's a very fine line between being a braggart and being humble. And if you ask me about what I've done, if I'm ever accused of anything, it's by underselling myself, because I sometimes cannot find that fine line. And so, when I look to a positive mindset, I'm reminded, right, that one person can make a difference.
Yeah.
That the power of one is so much more powerful than power of none. It may take a community or a nation or a lot of folks to change, to affect galactic change, but we can make a difference in our lives, right? And it's like, if you're the one who throws a pebble into the pond and you get one ripple, and that one positive ripple has a positive effect. I mean, if you imagine walking down the street or being outdoors and smiling at somebody, or holding a door, or saying hello, or wishing someone a good day, that might just be something someone needs to hear to be acknowledged. I mean, how often in our culture, in many places I travel to, if I say, hi, how are you? Well, the person asks me, how are you? I'm the person who'll tell you exactly how I am. Meanwhile, that person's already going on and pitching me what they want to tell me. And they're not pausing long enough to actually let me answer that question, because how are you is a phrase, not necessarily an intention and a reflection. And so I do believe that we can allow ourselves to be more positive, that we could try a social experiment by saying yes, not no, and see where that gets us. Now, with the terrible twos, we might be offering training which we don't want to reinforce, so perhaps there's a conscious level there. But in adult interactions, I mean, here's the thing: the word mindset or mind space, or even self-love, or anything related to that, was not in my vernacular growing up. I never heard my parents talk about self-love. I heard my father talk about being positive, and worrying was a waste of time. He told me time and time again. I had to wait many years afterwards to appreciate that. But the whole idea, these are things I didn't learn growing up in elementary school or high school or college. A lot of these are concepts I only understood the last 20 years. And so it's possible, if we could find ways to make these ideas and thoughts be in the vernacular for all, that we can start this earlier in our lives, and not just be elite role models for how people can find the love, but to understand it's okay to love. I mean, there's, the part of the challenges is that vulnerability. We've covered this in some episodes, but some people look at vulnerability as a weakness. I look at it as a strength.
Yes.
Be on the edge and being open and being vulnerable to hearing and sharing your feelings doesn't mean you're weak. In fact, it might make you super strong. But again, it goes to mind space. It goes to mindset. And so I believe when we can be who we are and be comfortable in our own skin and speak our truth, that's the best we could ever be. And for that, I require a positive mind space to know that I'm comfortable speaking my truth, no matter where I go, no matter what I do. And how do I do that? By just accepting myself. And that's the other part about a positive mind space, is allowing yourself to be you and not pretending to be somebody else, even inadvertently, and accepting you for all your flaws and all your goodness, that I am me, and I'm speaking my words at that moment. And I'm good enough to be here. I'm good enough to be present. That, together with words that remind me of the positive light, the positive side, which brings me to light and a high vibration and staying in a good space in that moment, I'm great. It's when I fall out of flow, when I start to allow external things hit me because, oh my God, someone just passed away, this happened, that happened, and it's chaos. Yeah, I need to find time to settle. But when I'm settled and I'm grounded, I believe in magic. I believe that we can affect positive change, because your voice matters, and you having the strength to share your voice can have the most positive effect on people you may never meet, but they're better off for knowing that you were here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And just quickly, Jeff, response. We have a responsibility to do that, right? Whatever sphere we're in, we have a responsibility to bring in love, grace, peace, positivity, mercy, kindness, graciousness, compassion. And those are all the things that we have to bring into not only our own life, but in other people's lives as well, and be alert to that. So we have to lead the way.
By the way, neuroscience.
Yeah.
Going back to the simple question, neuroscience has proven we're born with a positive bias. Now, I want to sort of take that into a slightly interesting place, and I'm going to call it a can-do attitude. So a negative bias is a can't-do attitude. In other words, you're coming up with reasons why it can't happen. But a child, a baby, has got no experience and everything's new, apart from their parents who they see immediately. And if their parents are, like my parents, encouraging, then every child learns to walk because they have a can-do attitude. If they have a can't-do attitude, guess what? We'd have a lot of 15, 16-year-olds in nappies, diapers, bum shuffling around the world, and they wouldn't have changed the habit they got from day one. So we already know that we're born with a can-do attitude because every child, unless they're physically incapable, walks. Every child talks. Every child has a tantrum, okay? Because it's a habit. I want to go back to what Rehan said. How do we change these habits? Yes, they are habits. So we do things and we get really good at doing them, whether they're a good habit or a bad habit. And as he knows, I talk about golf from time to time. You can get really good practicing a hook or a slice. Really good. And you can, every shot you know, I'm going to hook it. And guess what? You'll hook it. Because you practiced it so often that that's the shot you're going to take. More importantly, it's now in your belief system. So when you actually hit a slice, you know, and it goes off to the right somewhere, if you're a right-hander, you think, blimey, how did that happen? Not why it happened. How did that happen? Because that's not up here. This is not what's been going on up here for the last 4 years of my life. So we need to get into this habit arena of what are good habits and bad habits. And Pastor Bill, I'm sure you've got lots of groups where you, in Bible study, maybe you're looking at good habits. You're looking at developing good habits. I mean, I put something out on LinkedIn the other day, and in essence, someone came back and said, you know, the wise man built his house upon the rock. You know, the foolish man built his house upon the sand and the rain came tumbling down. Now, most of us in the Western world have heard that when we were 3 or 4 years old and we recited it as habit. But until we get to, you know, a prime old age like me, you don't realize the value of that little poem, that psalm, that hymn. And it starts to come home. So, as I say, there are good habits and bad habits. And let me just say, when I went on the speaking circuit, which I did reluctantly, but I started to ask people questions because they were coming to me for inspiration. I didn't like being classified as an inspirational speaker because, frankly, inspiration comes from one place, and that's from you. Not from me, it comes from you. I may be able to spark it, but then you've got to take it on. So I would say, okay, who is here that wants to improve? So imagine there's been a bit of a spiel beforehand and you've ramped them up, and who's here to, you know, to improve? Without exception. Now, it doesn't matter who's in the audience, what age they are, what culture they are, how many are in the audience, hands immediately go up. Yeah, I'm here to change. Hallelujah. You know, I want to improve. I gave the game away there, okay? And I said, okay, I want you to leave the hand up in the air that you want to improve. Who's going to change? and slowly a few hands start to go up. But not every hand will go up. And in fact, it's only about 10 or 15%. So going back to what Rehan said is, we've got a habit where, yeah, we want to improve, but you're not prepared to change. So how are you going to improve if you're not prepared to change? And it's as simple as that. So how do we get people to change habits is we have to actually stop building the house from the ground floor upwards. We need to build the foundation. Education, sadly, doesn't build the foundation. We go in, and education these days is, what can you remember, and can you get it down on a piece of paper fast enough within an hour and a half at the end of the year to get an A, B, C, or God forbid, a D? You know, that's what education has become. It's become schooling. But it's when we're not being taught to listen, we're not being taught to think, we're not being taught to use our imagination. And a very good friend of mine, Professor Sir Ken Robinson, that sadly died a couple of years ago, said all these things at the very highest level, but what have we seen? Education hasn't changed. So it's a long-winded answer in some respects to what Rehan said. How do we change habits? We actually have to start below ground. We've got to reinstill the good habits that people haven't got. And I'll give you a classic example here. And it was only in 2017 when I was going around Pakistan. And I just happened to ask a few students, so tell me about a few books that you learned from. And one of them said, well, they're all English. Now, this was just about to graduate. And I got the shock of my life. So all undergraduates in Pakistan are taught in English. Their exams are in English and their textbooks are in English. And apparently that starts at O-level. They're better at English than me. Carla's teaching people how to speak English. And in essence, they're probably far more literate in English than any of us are on here. But they haven't got the courage, the confidence, the resilience to speak English. So there is a classic case in point. They don't believe in themselves. And yet they're damn good at passing exams. They're some of the most qualified people in the world. And yet they say they can't speak English. It's that can't word again, you know? that N apostrophe T, we've got to get, you know, the apostrophe T, we've got to clear off, you know, throw into the abyss. Anyway, that's just a few bits of insight. Maybe someone can challenge me or add to it.
Can I say something?
Go ahead, please.
We're talking about how you just said we are born with a positive mindset.
No, I said, no. I said we're born with a positive bias. I'm using my words very carefully.
Okay. A positive bias. I'm going to go back to my birth. When I was born with a broken hip. How, what happened, I have no idea. I heard throughout my life, and I know that my mom didn't mean it this way, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't, nothing could I do. And it was only in recent years I began to know I can do. You know, I need to shake this off. I had come to a point where I didn't want to even talk to my mom because I was being told if I spoke to, I knew that if I spoke to her, I would hear what I can't do. And I know she didn't mean it, but it was her way of being very loving. I don't think I'm the only one in the world who grew up with this. And yet it took many years for me to get to a point where I can say, oh, I can do this. I can go live. I can create programs like this. I can create English shows. If you had asked me 10 years ago if I could do this, The answer, I would have laughed in your face. In fact, I did laugh in someone's face when he brought up the English show the first time. So, you know, you say I was born with a positive bias, but it was thrown out the window once I got on the planet. And
Yep.
Don't you think this is pretty normal for most people? Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, let's just say parenthood is not easy.
Yeah, plus, you know, it's not whether you're wrong or you're right. It's how those that you're speaking with process what's being said. I've been an advocate for a very long time to drop the T from can't and say, and basically it's you can, you know, just, you know, the difference between can and can't is the letter T. So if you can learn to drop the T, anything becomes possible. It's much like when you're pitching someone and they said no to you. I always tell people no is an upside down on. You have to find a way to turn them on to you as opposed to being turn that no into an on. If you're pitching an idea, whether you're looking to fund a startup or looking to change the world, you just have to find ways to empower people and figure out where those hidden objections were. And so, but yes, a can't do attitude does not help anyone. A can do attitude will change the world. And lots of times, it's the people who don't realize they can't do something that can do the most. And I can tell you with my own personal experiences in life, the things that I've most accomplished for is because I didn't know I couldn't do it before I started it. If anyone would have told me how impossible some of my things were going to be, I probably never would have done it, because who wants to go up against windmills? Who wants to be the Don Quixote to go out and change things? But my ignorance was bliss. And my ignorance continues to be bliss, because when I don't know I can't do something, anything and everything becomes possible. So I look at a can't as a negative, but by not knowing the can't, I can, and we can do anything we want to, and anything becomes possible within physics. You know, I'm not suggesting that we all will sit here and find a cure for a hard disease to find an answer to, because we're not necessarily skilled in it. But you know what? Good accidents happen. Some of the greatest inventions in our lives happened accidentally because someone was seeking out to do one thing and they discovered something else. And there's a long history of that. So I don't say that anything can't be done, because in fact, magic does happen. I believe there are moments when we all live at the intersection of serendipity and synchronicity. When something just happens and we intuitively know to look a certain way and say yes instead of no, and be open even to ourselves, right? And have the strength to say yes. You know, in some cultures, it is difficult to take a chance. You know, I have friends of mine in the Israeli startup world whose parents never supported them in their startups because they wanted them to have a job that could be reliable, where maybe it's not the most exciting job in the world, but at least there's a paycheck. And it was my friends' parents who didn't want their kids to take risks that was mitigating their opportunities in canning to do a startup. Yes, I can do it. And so it was being pressured, oh, I need a sure thing. And, you know, maybe I'm just a little different there. I believe in the power of the person, that if you dream, you can manifest your dream, that there's something magical here by having the attitude. I can see it. I can say it, I can be witnessed, and then it can happen. And I've been witness to that many, many times. Impossible things that were otherwise impossible happened as innocently as anything else, as innocent as a majestic sunrise or sunset. So I just assumed, oh, of course this is how it is. Not appreciating at the moment how special it was, because to me it was just a moment. And when I look back in time, I believe we're all blessed. We don't always know where our blessings were, but perhaps we can appreciate those moments. And so being open, being positive, allowing things that can happen, and being open to us being positive, it has the most empowering, it offers us a chance to be present and do great things. I'll just say that I don't know if too many people have done great things who've had a negative attitude. So I advocate for a positive mind space to bring light and love into this world. Don't be afraid to share your voice, and really be and have the strength to be who you are, and to be you, not anyone else. It's hard enough to be yourself. So accept yourself, be you, and be strong being you, and appreciate the light that you bring forward, and you will have a positive effect on everyone around you, and many that don't know of you, but see how you affected someone else, and that's a blessing all by itself.
It's like the T-shirt that says, "Be yourself, I'm already taken." You've seen that, right?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Be yourself, I'm already taken.
Yes. 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 And yes.
Yeah, I like that.
Hey, Rehan, what do you have to say? I mean, you've been drinking all this in. We want to hear the dewdrops of your wisdom from Pakistan.
Unfortunately, I don't have any wisdom over here, so I will just listen. But I think one of the best thing I heard this year is from Khan Academy's founder, Sal Khan, is somebody asked him, what do you see the future is like? And he said, I don't really know, but I think I expect that in 20 years, we will be able to have a kind of education which will allow a majority of the human beings to be enlightened. And I think that's a very, it's the best thing I've heard about it. And I think AI and other really tools which are available to us will help us to correct our parents, like Carla was saying. I also never heard of anything like mindset and positive attitude and you can't do this. I mean, the whole, where I come, I think poverty is nothing but a mindset. So the reason poor countries are poor are basically, in my opinion, because of poor mindset, nothing else, and poor habits. So I think I'm trying to write this book called like the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. I'm trying to write this book called the 7 Habits of Highly Successful Nations. So how does nation change? You change the habits of the nation, and that sometime needs to be. Yes, I understand and totally agree with Jeff Pulver on that one person can actually make a change, but sometime you need a mass surgery on a nation to actually transform it. And it starts somewhere. So I am very hopeful that very interestingly, at least we have very interesting time for the next 2-3 years, because 2023 would be fascinating for humanity in the terms of transformation of technology. It's just going to be insanely crazy. A company which was launched, or not a company, but a software or service which was launched 30 days ago is now $29 billion in evaluation in 30 days. That's never, I don't think it has ever happened like before.
Wow.
So things like that are going to happen more often this year. While we were watching and doing this show, I bumped into an app which can take my photo and make audio out of it, and actually I could have not been here and just do the show, just like I did it at the start. So it's very interesting time, and it's up to us how we use all this phenomenal content and phenomenal human growth. And do we use it as you say, Pastor Billy, that we're all bad people and we need saving from Jesus? Or, as Neville said, we are all mostly positive and we can take it into the positive side. So it's up to us, all of us. And I hope that Jeff is right. In the end, the light will win. But I'm not sure about that. I have stopped trying too hard anymore. I just start to live now. Finally, it was aggravating me. It was disturbing me. And as Jeff, you were saying, you let go of all the things which were doing all those things for you. Maybe you let it go 10 years ago, and I'm right here. So thank you, my mentor, and keep guiding us with your wisdom and power. So I don't know how long this show lasts, but I'm glad, and I keep asking Carla, whenever these guys are here, I would love to join. So I'm so happy to be around you guys. You're smart wisdom, and I'm happy to be drinking all the wisdom off you guys. And I'm still waiting. How do I fast for 40 days?
Yeah, well, yeah, go ahead, Carla. Yeah.
He's been asking me it, and he doesn't know I've been answering him in WhatsApp. This is coming to the end of the show. And I do want to say, yeah, I got a lot of negativity from my mom, but I also accomplished things that many people didn't accomplish in the time I did. I learned to speak Hebrew in a few months because I wanted to go to a camp. I got my master's degree in less than 2 years. I graduated college in less than 3 years. So there are things that I did, but it was hard for me to get to them because I always thought, oh, I can't do it. And yet I went ahead and did it anyway. And my mom would turn around, do you know that you speak Hebrew fluently now? And 3 months ago you didn't? You know, things like that happen. So when we're talking about mindset, how do we develop it? And we can go into that on another show. But I would like to get final words from everyone about mindset and what it is. Pastor Billy.
Yeah, brevity here. And we have to look at ourselves that we're made in the image and likeness of God and see others made in the image and likeness of God. Love everybody, be kind to everybody, and keep God number one in our hearts and lives. That's it. Back to you, to Neville.
In my career, I've done lots of things and started lots of things that I didn't have a clue of how to do it. But it was the drive to say, this needs to be done. And eventually you improve what you're doing. You get more confidence in yourself by sticking your neck above the parapet. And more importantly, the people you pull along with you mentor you into heights you've never, ever dreamed of. So I found this first when I was in the Scouts, a tender age of about 5 or 6 years old. And that lasted nearly 30 years, and I became a Scout leader. At not one moment when I was 5 or 6 did I believe I was ever going to be a Scout leader. But it was what you do along the way is having the confidence to take that first step. We've talked about taking the first step, which is different than your normal habit because you wouldn't take the step. So just going back to simple stuff is if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Good old Henry Ford said that many years ago. But I'd like to say, if you believe you can or believe you can't, you're right. So all you got to do is change your beliefs.
Yeah.
Anything is possible when you believe. Allow yourself to believe, and at the same time, don't forget who you are. To learn to become comfortable in your own skin and accept yourself is sometimes the hardest thing to ever do. But once you're there, don't let go. If you're having a hard day, go back to sleep. If you can't do that, take a shower. If you can't do that, close your eyes and open them and know that you're awaking into a new day as your day starts again. Be present and live life now.
I like that, Rehan. I like what everyone's saying, actually. Rehan?
You know, as I said, I think there is no, and I'm sorry, Pastor, you might be, be upset, but I think there is no negative or positive. It's all what we make of it. There is without night, there is no day. Without day, there is no night. We all have our places. The negativity has their place. If there was no devil, Pastor Billy would be out of business. So we need those sides of the everything, right? So I think there's something I think the universe is beyond our understanding, at least for now. Yes. And we don't really understand God. We don't really understand why we're here. We struggle with these questions all our lives. And we just, I think, give up at certain places and say, you know what, I'll just do this. It makes more sense to me. And I have changed myself over the years many times, and I'm sure you all have done the same. And I don't know what's coming for me next in terms of changing, how it will change for me, how the world is going to change. And I think we just have to live one day at a time as much as we can with a nice plan. And we just have to be happy as much as we can. We have to control our anxiety. We have to control our mind as much as we can. And I, for one, have taken out our vocabulary, the word "our" from my book, because I don't think I can change our mindset. I can only change my mindset and your mindset. If we have a conversation, we all try to change everyone else. I don't think it's possible. I hope that it works. I hope it will change, but I don't think we can. It's just too big of a grand plan. So I'm sticking to this for now, and I hope to grow with all your wisdom. And I think it's coming. I think we, as a human race, are seeing an awakening of a very interesting time. We are, you're living. I'm in Austria. You are in UK. One is in New York, probably another one in New York also, and then DC. And look, we're watching people from all around the planet. And it's a very, very beautiful time. What humanity has achieved in the last 120 years is just nobody would have believed it. So thank you to all the people in the past, our parents and all the people who taught us bad things and the good things. We're still here. We're still, I think we have this in the known history of humankind. This is the most advanced version of us, and it's phenomenal. And I think we should all be proud of ourselves that we're basically a fantastic human race, even though we might think there's so much bad going on. Just turn off the television. If everything else is then fantastic. And I think, even though you're saying, Jeff, that in Israel, they have this mindset of jobs and everything, but if Israel has become an amazing nation and it has transformed itself and it has become a role model for everyone, every country in the planet, when it comes to entrepreneurship and startups.
Yes.
And it has transformed everything. And I hope that spills over to the Gaza side, to the other sides, to the rest of the Islamic states around Israel. And I hope really that it grows, the mindset grows, and that is happening. We see that more and more countries are allowing Israel to be accepted. Dubai, for example, there's more flights to Dubai of Israel than anything else. It's really quick. It's like $30. You can go back and forth from Dubai from Tel Aviv. It's insane. So it's fantastic what's happening.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for this. I think we live in an amazing time, in phenomenal time, but it's just beautiful.
Thank you for that, Rehan. And
Thank
Jeff
you.
and Neville.
Thank you, everyone. This has been quite an amazing show and not what I expected today. I don't know what I expected, but I want to thank Rehan and Neville and Jeff and Pastor Billy for being here. And I think those who watch may have a new feeling or a new way of thinking about mindset. And we shall see. I wish everyone a positive mindset. And with that, let's wave goodbye.
Farewell. The next time we meet.
Until we meet again, happy